am very excited for today's show. I have two longtime friends that will be sharing their recent creative work, a movie called Tuscaloosa. They are HR technology veterans, having founded Modern Survey many years ago, and now they are taking their creative endeavors into other fields. So we'll talk with them in the last half hour. In the meantime, I want to share what's been happening in the week of people analytics and how it's going to impact the future of work. And this is our third show. And so we're growing, we're expanding, we're collecting your ideas. So as you go and experience this, please share what you think. And if you have ideas on that are going to prove valuable to you, by all means, please share. And this is, after all, for you. So today, this is effectively what we're going to talk about. Very excited of what's going on here in the United States on several fronts, which might seem absurd given what's happening in the macroeconomy, as well as what's happening with the pandemic. But Black Lives Matter movement is getting additional traction. It's entering the workplace now. I was so happy to see so many organizations taking a firm stance and committing to a long-term fight against systematic racism in the United States. It is a conversation, needless to say, but actually it warrants saying, that is way overdue. And so I am excited to be talking about that theme again today with Dan Riley and Patrick Riley, the executive producers and directors of Tuscaloosa. One of the exciting things I want to kick off today with is what's happened with LGBTQ rights. The Supreme Court effectively said on a federal level that it's now illegal for employers to discriminate based on your sexual orientation. The fact that we're here in 2020 and that wasn't already the case is, in my view, absurd, much like the case with racism in the United States. It is absurd. I thought growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s that we'd be way past this. We're not. There's a lot of work to do. So one of the things that we're going to do in this forum, building off the theme of People Data for Good, is what can we do around data and analytics and elevating insight to leaders, both not only organizational leaders, but team leaders. What can we do to inspire change, and not only inspire change on an event-driven basis, but how can we make it part of the culture in our organization? So we're going to explore that today. We're, of course, going to be touching on the pandemic. I'm here in California. And while we have opened up a little bit, cases have started to spike. So there's this feeling that we're going to have to contract again. That's creating anxiety, which creates uncertainty in the marketplace. So what are we going to do, again, with data and analytics to strategize around return to workplace? Is it appropriate? What can we do to measure sentiment on an ongoing basis? And again, Dan and Patrick Riley have great deal of experience in analyzing and assessing employee sentiment. So we'll talk about that, I'm sure, in the last half hour. In the meantime, I am going to take on a question that many of you asked over the years. And certainly as we've openly solicited your questions to answer on this show, it's going to the basic. How do we define people analytics? And while that might seem a turnkey, easy, it is something that I believe we have to get right, because in turn, we have to communicate that through the organization. And if you're an organizational leader, you have to really understand what it means to you. Right now, I believe we're talking past each other, and I really want to explore a concept with you all around the purpose of people analytics. And if it resonates with you, fantastic. We'll talk about Black Lives Matter again and the movie Tuscaloosa with Dan and Patrick Riley. And one of the things that I am so excited to be sharing, it's one thing as a human being to think about something and want to do something. It's certainly another to actually go out and do it. And I can remember a conversation with Patrick Riley specifically, where he was exploring this idea, and fast forward several years later, it's not only done, it's out there to rave reviews. So I'm very excited to be sharing, exploring with them on not only the movie, but how it's so relevant to what's happening in the world today. And just as a footnote, they're both from from Minneapolis. And obviously, that has been the epicenter of what has transpired over the last several months with Black Lives Matter. So with that, we'll go to commercial, then we'll come back and we'll talk about people analytics and defining it.